FactsVerse presents 1816 was the year without a summer. Today, we're dealing with climate change. Many believe that thanks to global warming, our planet and everybody in it are in danger. Thanks to fossil fuel emissions, pollution, and greenhouse gases, glaciers are melting, the ocean levels are rising. Global warming threatens human existence in some frightening ways. In 1816, the change in the planet's climate did the opposite. Rather than heating up, it got cold. In most parts of the world, 1816 was the year without a summer. The beginning months of 1816 were cold, but that wasn't anything significant. It was relatively dry, but not too cold. When spring arrived, the temperatures outside started warming up. When it was time for summer to arrive, though, it never came. The cold weather returned, and that caused some severe issues. Because it got so cold during the summer when crops often thrived, those crops failed. That put people all over the world at risk of hunger, even starvation. The average temperature across the globe fell by over a degree. Now that might not sound like much, but it caused very long stretches of cold weather. That chill of 1816 was known as the year without a summer. Others called it 1800 and froze to death. During what should have been the summer of 1816, the gloomy fog settled over the eastern seaboard of America. Instead of it being sunny, there was a red haze in the sky. It was so dim during the day you could see sunspots without a telescope. It was discovered early on that nothing could clear the fog either. When it rained, it was foggy. When it was windy, it got foggy. The fog blocked the sun, and that made for a very cold summer. New England residents didn't notice anything off at first. January was average. Some areas were warmer than others. As the year went on, the temperature didn't rise as expected, though. Also, the rainfall was much lower than average. Up until May, it was so cold, crops wouldn't grow. They couldn't even be planted, which would set back the crop season greatly. In May, a woman stated the weather was going backward. When the weather just started to warm up, it started going back and getting cold again. In May 1816, an unseasonal frost hit the northeast United States. In June, it snowed. A man named Benjamin Harwood wrote in his diary on June 7th about the strange weather patterns. He wrote, "The surface of the ground was stiff with frost, and the leaves of trees were blackened. Past 6 in the morning, a washtub full of rainwater was scummed with ice. Snow remained on Sandgate and Manchester Mountain past noon or as late as that." According to a Virginia resident, Pharaoh Chesney, July 4th was so cold that the water froze and it snowed. This resulted in Independence Day celebrations being held in churches, with fires roaring. While all of this was going on, American founder Thomas Jefferson was also struggling with the harsh conditions in Virginia. Because his corn crop failed due to the cold, he had to take out a loan to keep his Monticello plantation running. In most parts of New England, there were only 2 periods of time where frost didn't cover the ground. It snowed in June and again in July. The extreme weather damaged the crops severely. The corn didn't have a chance to ripen, and far fewer vegetables and fruits reached maturity. Those that did were very small and not really worth buying. Most of that summer saw crazy weather patterns, not just in New England but also in Pennsylvania and Virginia. On an average day, the temperature could go from freezing to the mid-90s in just a few hours. These weather fluctuations were far from ordinary. The problems with the weather didn't only affect those in the northern U.S. Because the crops in New England had failed, the rest of the country and even Canada felt it. In Quebec, the people struggled to find enough to eat, and bread was in short supply. People in the Northeast were leaving due to the weather, moving west to Illinois and Indiana hoping for better weather and more to eat. This rise in population is what helped Indiana become a state in 1816, and then Illinois in 1818. The year without a summer didn't just cause problems in the U.S. Torrential rains fell in Ireland, which destroyed the potato fields. It also rained a lot in Europe, which also caused food shortages. People were starving all over the world thanks to the crazy weather that year. People all over the world were dying of starvation, drowning in floods, being killed during riots for food. It was a very desperate time for everyone in the world. Fortunately, the weather patterns returned to normal the next year. and our planet hasn't gone through anything as severe since. Subscribe for more.